If you've ever signed up for a lead list and just didn't know what to do with it, or you got overwhelmed and gave up after 3 days, this video is for you. Here's something most people selling you lead lists will never tell you. When you start making calls on those leads, 90% of them will not get answered. Not half, not 70%, 90%. Your connection rate is somewhere between 5 and 10%, and that's it. That's the reality of outbound calling in 2026. Now, most people hear that number and they quit. Or worse, they go find an AI dialer or a multi-line system or some gimmick that promises to get around it. I'll tell you in a minute why every single one of those is a financial and legal disaster. Today, I'm gonna walk you through exactly what to do instead. This is the system that I use every single day to work probate leads. How many to pull, when to call, how to space the calls out, what tools to use, and how to stay disciplined so you actually work your list instead of burning out after a week. My name is Gary Bailey. I've closed over 2,000 real estate deals in 20 years, hundreds of them from probate. And I'm gonna show you the 4-call cadence that actually books deals. Now, let me start by killing the biggest mistake that I see brand new investors make. They go out and they buy a giant list, maybe 500 names, 1,000 names, a pre-foreclosure list, a probate list, an absentee owner list, whatever it is. And they think, great, I've got 1,000 leads. I'm gonna grind through it. Well, here's what actually happens. They make 50 calls on day 1 because they're all excited. Then they make 20 calls on day 2. Then they make 0 calls on day 3. And by the end of week 1, they've maybe called 100 people once each, and then they've quit. I would rather you take 20 leads and call them 6 times each than take 100 leads and call them only once. Now let me show you the math. At a 10% pickup rate, 100 calls gets you 10 conversations. 20 names called 600 times is 120 calls, which gets you 12 conversations with the same 12 people. Now you're showing up in their voicemail repeatedly. They're seeing the same number again and again. By call 3 or 4, they're starting to recognize you. That's how trust gets built in cold outreach. Volume of dials matters. Volume of names doesn't. Write that down. Next thing, stop cherry picking your list. And I see this all the time. Investors pull in their leads, they scroll through them, they say, oh, I don't like that house, I don't like that area, that one looks like a junker, and then they skip half the list before they've made a single call. But here's the problem with that. You're not looking for a house. You're looking for a situation. When that check shows up at the closing table, the area doesn't matter. The pictures on Zillow don't matter. What matters is whether the seller had a reason to sell and whether you got there before anybody else. Think about it like this. You're not trying to paint a tapestry or like a little painting with a tiny brush. You're trying to find that one perfect deal. You want to use a paint sprayer. You want to cover everybody, make every call, because the deal that's going to make your year is almost never the one that you thought it was going to be when you scrolled past it. I'll come back to that at the end of the video because I have a story that proves it. All right, let's talk about the cadence itself. This is the part that nobody teaches. When you get a new lead into your pipeline, here's how I work it. Day 1, you call. Day 2, you call. Day 3, you skip. Day 4, you call, and day 5, you call. So that's 4 calls in about 6 days. Then the lead graduates into your longer term nurture, which I'll get into next. So, well, why do we skip day 3? Well, because 3 calls in 3 days starts to feel like harassment, right? So 1 day of silence resets the rhythm. Your day 4 call doesn't feel like the same person hammering them. It feels like somebody who's actually persistent, not somebody who's desperate. Now, here's where most people fail. They don't actually schedule the calls. They just say, yeah, I'll follow up. And then on day 2, they forget. On day 4, they forget. The lead goes cold. They wonder why nothing's working. You have to put it on a calendar. So you have to wake up every morning, look at the task list, and see exactly who you're calling today. If you're using HomeFlip, this is built right into the software. You hit the schedule initial qualification sequence when the case comes in, and it books all 4 of your calls for you. They show up on your task list every morning with the case attached. You don't even have to think about it. If you're not using HomeFlip, that's fine. Use a spreadsheet, use a calendar, use a sticky note. I don't care, but schedule the calls or you will not make them. And here's the math on volume. If you pull in 2 new cases a day, by the end of week 1, your pipeline has roughly 10 people in it that you're actively working. By week 2, you're running between 15 and 20 calls a day. That's a full-time call block, and that's the goal. Now, let's talk about when to call. This matters a lot more than people think. I tend to call between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. and then again between 4 and 6 p.m. Those are my 2 windows, and that's it. And here's why. First thing in the morning, people are slammed, right? They're trying to get their day going. They're not picking up unknown numbers. Right after lunch, they're tired. They just sat back down. They're trying to get back into work. So first thing in the morning and right after lunch are terrible windows. What I found is that 11 to 1 catches them in that pre-lunch lull. They're kind of winding down for their break. Maybe they've already had their coffee. They're a little more relaxed. And then 4 to 6 catches them on the back end of the day. People driving home from work pick up their phones because they're bored in the car. Pick those 2 windows and protect them. Don't schedule meetings during your call blocks. Don't take calls during your call blocks. That's your money time. And here's the rule that nobody follows. Always leave a voicemail. Always. Always. And I don't care if it's a 30-second ramble. I don't care if you stumble over your words. Leave a voicemail. Most people who don't pick up will still listen to it. You're building familiarity with every voicemail that you leave, and on call 3 or 4, they finally pick up because they recognize your number from the missed calls and they remember the voice from the message. So no voicemail, no recall. Leave a voicemail every single time. Here's the rule that separates the people who actually do this from the people who end up quitting. You don't research during call time. You only call during call time. Let me explain what I mean by that. New investor sits down for their call block. They pull up the first lead. They look at the address. They open Zillow. Oh, look at that, 3 bedrooms, nice yard. They look at the photos. They check out the comps. They go look at the case file. They read the docket. They drive by it on Google Street View. An hour later, they've made 4 phone calls. That's not a call block. That's a research block. Research happens in a different time of the day. So pull your cases, review them, take notes, do your homework, and then put it down. When you sit down for the call block, the only thing you're doing is dialing, leaving voicemails, logging the call outcome, and dialing the next one. Boom, boom, boom. No tabs, no Zillow, no Street View, just calls. You should be making 10 calls an hour starting out and working up to 20 an hour once you've really warmed up. Now that only happens if you treat the call block as a true call block, no research. Now let me talk about the tools because this matters as well. I would highly encourage you to not use your cell phone for these calls. And I'm gonna say that again, I really wouldn't use your cell phone. I think if you're gonna take your business seriously, you wanna use like a paid dialer. The one that I use, it's called JustCall. I'll put a link below where you can get a little discount if you sign up with it. So it's justcall.io. And it runs about $75 to $100 a month, depending on the plan. And it gives you everything that you need. It gives you a dedicated business number that's separate from your personal phone. So you know when an unknown number calls you back, it's a probate lead and it's not your kid's school. You can also text from that number as well. And you can even set up multiple lines. So you can have a number for a probate and a separate one for, say, your wholesale buyers, and really almost anything. And the most important thing is call recording. Well, why does call recording matter? 2 reasons. 1, you can go back and you can listen to your own calls. So you'll be horrified the first time you do this, right? You'll be covering your ears. You'll hear yourself talk too fast, fumble the open, miss obvious questions. That's how you get better though. I mean, there's no other way. 2, if you're working with a coach or you're in home flip and you want feedback, you can upload the recording. You could say, hey, what did I do wrong on this one? That's worth 10 times what you pay for the dialer. A good dialer pays for itself with 1 extra deal in 5 years. 1, that's the bar. You'll clear that bar in your first month, don't worry. Now, I promised you in the intro that I'd explain why AI dialers and multi-line dialers are a disaster, and here it is. These leads have not opted in to being called. That means that under TCPA, the federal law that governs telemarketing, you cannot use an auto dialer or a multi-line system to call them. It's illegal. At scale, the fines can be astronomical. But forget the legal side for a second. Let's say you don't want to get caught. Well, here's what happens to your business anyway. Multi-line dialers and AI dialers end up getting your number spam flagged inside a matter of weeks. So the carriers detect the calling pattern, they tag your number, spam likely, and now every call you make from that number, including the legitimate single line calls, they now show up on people's phone as spam likely. Your pickup rate goes from 10% to 2% and your business dies. There's no magic bullet on pickup rates. It's really just a law of physics. 5 to 10%, accept it, work the cadence, make the calls. There are a handful of dialers out there that are a little more expensive that are tier 1 numbers. For example, dialer.io, but it's pretty pricey for what you want to get into. So if you're debating even spending $75 a month on JustCall, then signing up for dialer.io is probably not going to work for you as well. But if you wanted to go to that level, they have tier 1 numbers and they monitor the health of your number on a daily basis. Dialer.io is probably hands down the best dialer that you can use. But again, it's probably going to run you between at least $500 to $1,000 per month. That's going to be a lot more than you're going to want to spend probably when you're new. Okay, so you've worked the 4-call cadence. 6 days, 4 calls. Most of your leads you still haven't talked to, right? Well, what now? Well, you graduate them into a long-term nurture. And here's what this one looks like. After that first 6 days and those first 4 calls, the next month, you're going to want to put them on a bi-weekly follow-up schedule. So it's going to be 2 call attempts per call window. Again, you're gonna leave the voicemail every single time. Then once you've done that for a month, you're gonna drop into a monthly. That way you're gonna call them for another 6 months after that, just one time a month within that follow-up window. Then after that month, you drop them to a monthly follow-up cadence for the rest of a 6-month follow-up window. So end to end, every single lead that comes into your pipeline gets 6 months of consistent follow-up. 4 calls in the first 6 days, then every 2 weeks for a month, and then once a month for the rest. That's it. That's the system. And yes, that means after a month, your pipeline starts stacking up, right? You'll start juggling 50, 80, 100 names across different stages of the cadence. You can't do this in your head. You can't do this on a sticky note. In Home Flip, you just simply click Create Follow-Up Plan and the system schedules every one of those calls for you. They show up on your task list every day, on the right day, in the right window, with a case file attached. You just open your laptop, hit your call block, and start dialing. But no matter what, whatever tool you use, the principle is the same. Schedule the follow-ups in advance. Don't decide on the fly. Decision fatigue is what kills cadences. All right, I want to leave you with the story that I promised at the beginning. A few years back, I had a lead come in on a probate case. It was a pretty standard case. There was nothing special. The address was a regular 3-bedroom in an okay neighborhood. If I'd been cherry picking, I probably would have skipped it. It just wasn't the kind of house that jumps off the page. But I called anyway. I got a hold of the fiduciary on the phone and started asking about the property. And she said, yeah, we're not really sure what to do with that one. It's complicated. Fine. So I always ask the question, well, is there anything else going on with the estate? Anything else that needs to be dealt with? And she paused and she said, well, there is this rental property that he had that's been sitting vacant for a couple of years, but nobody's ever really asked us about it. It's in pretty rough shape. You probably wouldn't be interested. Now, that rental was the deal, not the house in the case file. So not the address that came in on the lead, the vacant rental that nobody else had ever asked about because nobody had ever called the fiduciary, because everybody else in that lead list just looked at the property in the case and decided it wasn't worth a phone call. That deal would not have existed if I had cherry-picked the list. It would not have existed if I had given up after one ring. It existed because I made the call, asked the question, and listened to the answer. That's the whole game. Make the call, ask the questions, don't prejudge. So here's what I want you to do this week. Pull 2 or 3 cases into your pipeline tomorrow morning. Schedule the 4-call cadence, block out 11 to 1 and 4 to 6 on your calendar, and make the calls. Leave the voicemails, log the outcome, and move on. Do that for 2 weeks straight, and your pipeline will be full. Do it for 2 months, and you'll close your first deal from a lead that you almost skipped. If you want the platform that runs all this for you, go to homeflip.ai, click See It in Action, and then book a strategy call with me. I'll show you how the whole thing works in 30 minutes. All right, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Pull your cases, schedule your calls, follow up with your leads, and I'll see you back here next week.